So what do we look for in early teams when we're considering them for speedrun? Probably the most important thing for any team is passion and resilience and grit. When you're running a company, particularly in the early stages, things are hard. You have no data necessarily to show you that you're on the right track. You just have to believe. You know, like I also mentioned, the vast majority of things are like not consensus. So you have to believe when fundamentally other people don't believe. That is a really hard thing to do. Your idea, the product you're making, the market you're going after can make all the logical sense in the world. But there are going to be times where, as an entrepreneur, you have to will something into the world when other people are saying no or external forces are pushing back. That is how anything of consequence ever gets created. It's like you have to say yes and create yes when there's a bunch of no that exists around you. That is like, you know, probably the most important. Now that's very hard to screen for, of course, but you know, that's one of the things that we look for in founders. Speedrun is A16Z's early stage program for entrepreneurs building in tech, AI, and entertainment. Speedrun is a 12-week intensive bootcamp early stage program for founders. It's handcrafted by our team here at A16Z. Our next cohort, which is going to be our 5th cohort, is going to start in July out of our beautiful Santa Monica office. And we think we're going to have roughly 50 companies that come in, work together, collaborate, learn from each other, use our amazing resources that we've put at the founders' disposal, and hopefully grow and achieve product market fit as a result. I have always managed my career based on the opportunity to learn. In games, in consumer, everything changes all of the time. When I started my career, I was making MySpace games, then Facebook games, then mobile games. Then at Zynga, I shipped a whole bunch of like instant messaging games. And certainly those are very popular in Asia. You know, then I went into VR. Even in those platforms, as they mature, player preferences change, genres change. And because there are so many passionate people working in the games industry, it's like things change all of the time. The games industry has been just a collection of people breaking rules over and over and over, and by virtue of breaking rules, making new and better and more accessible and more successful experiences. And so maybe one of the lessons is, and you don't have to be inexperienced to break the rules, but it does help. If you don't know the rules, it's really easy to break the rules. There are also, you know, amazing entrepreneurs that we've met, you know, are just willing to break the rules, even if they know something works. That's maybe one thing that I took away from, you know, those formative years. I mean talent as in, it was a collection of people who were all really passionate, who were all working like crazy without any expectation that things would necessarily work out. At Playdom, you know, we were always chasing Zynga. We were, you know, we had our own successes, of course, but Zynga was like always just beating us, you know, at things. And so it was an underdog story where we're just working overtime every single day, nights and weekends, you know, all the time, just to try to catch up. And there's something really energizing about that, you know, particularly as a young person, but just in general, I think, you know, to really make a dent on the world, you have to put energy into it. Enough energy to like overcome most of what the world is just inertia, right? And we're experimenting all kinds of things, none of it was working, but I never remember being sad or frustrated. And that's because you look around the room, everyone is passionate, everyone's working together, you know, everyone's incredibly smart, throwing ideas out. You know, it's that kind of energy that allows a company to then push in order to go then make a thing that just becomes something that's successful. So that was maybe another experience that I took. And that's especially relevant now today, since I've switched from building games and into investing in companies. The only thing that I've learned really is that like there are extraordinarily few universal truths. And so if you take that as your basis of like how the world operates, that the way to be successful is to be flexible enough to throw away existing knowledge and to learn a new thing, then the only way that you can win or stay competitive is to be at a place where you can learn the new things at a rate faster and better than everybody else. You know, because I was fortunate enough to be in organizations that showed that kind of energy, that sort of like a collection of talent and how that talent can mesh together and do interesting things. That's the kind of thing that I look for in companies that I invest in. When we started Speedrun, we call it, you know, a love letter to the games industry because Speedrun started as a games program. And what we noticed was there were two sets of constituents we thought were underserved. One was this set of game developers who were really amazing game developers who had great ideas for fun experiences in their heads, but didn't really know how to start or operate a venture-backed startup. Raising money is kind of an esoteric thing, like setting up payroll and like incorporation. These are like not things that you necessarily do when you're a really experienced and talented game designer. So that was like one set of constituents that we really wanted to serve. Another was there were all of these amazing tech entrepreneurs who loved games. And many of these people wanted to start games companies, but were not formally trained in game design, did not really know how to build a community or any of this stuff. So we took those two sets of people and purpose-built a program for, to basically teach those two sets of people the thing that they didn't know. Over the course of running Speedrun, we just got to meet so many entrepreneurs who were excited about the program, but weren't building a game studio, as an example. And so we slowly opened the aperture of what it meant to be a speedrun company. So as an example, Duolingo is a public company. Duolingo is an app that teaches people how to learn a new language. But most people who experience Duolingo would not call it like an app, they would probably call it a game. For what it's worth, the chief product officer of Duolingo for many years, Jorge, he came up as a product manager at Zynga, and he brought a lot of those learnings into Duolingo, right? So the way that they operate some of their live operations, or how a user or player progresses through learning a language, like all of that kind of comes from games. And so is Duolingo like a games company or an app company? We would posit that it's actually kind of more of a games company. And so in the age of AI, if you think about AI as like the ability to index and then process and create outputs out of an amalgamation of all of human knowledge, that's what generative AI is. What becomes the scarcest and most valuable resource then in a world where that's the main thing, that's the source of intelligence? It's net new human thought. That can only come from a place where people have the space and capacity to feel creative. Oftentimes, the most creative ideas come from the collisions of multiple people. It's like in the battle of ideas comes like totally net new thought. And so if you think about the very long arc of things, games and entertainment and playfulness, is going to be an essential ingredient to the creation of new human thought and creativity. And so that's also kind of a thing that we really want to do, is over time we want Speedrun to support that kind of motion. It's like, how do we get new human thought into the world? Look, I think that the things that I said we look for in entrepreneurs, I think those are timeless. Resilience and passion and an ability to lead through ambiguity. If there's something that I've learned from being an operator, you can get people to work really hard when things are going well. When you're winning, your stock price is going up, the business is growing, you're getting really great feedback from users, or even you're making progress toward a shared vision of what the product should look like, just working your way backwards. That's still hard. Getting people to work really hard when they have kids and families and other obligations, that's still hard, but it's way easier when things are going right. But inevitably, in a startup, things will go wrong. There will be times where things are not up and to the right. The feedback is not necessarily positive. That's the hardest thing to do, I think, for any entrepreneurs, to get a team to still operate, row in the same direction and be motivated when things are hard. That is definitely one timeless quality for entrepreneurs. Yeah, I would say that's probably the most important one. It's been a lot of fun to tell you a little bit more about me, my experience, and my story. I've learned a lot in my career. Between me and the team here at Speedrun and at A16Z, we're all so excited to potentially work with you, share some of these learnings with you in person. If you're interested in applying to Speedrun, our applications are open now. You can find them at sr.a16z.com.